producers used to say, औरतों की pictures नहीं चलती. So, which I was like, how do you know? Glass ceiling wasn't created by women. So why is the entire onus of getting rid of it on the shoulders of women?
Welcome to Rulebreaker. We're breaking the rules. And what rules are we breaking? That women come last. Tanuja Chandra, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. I love that introduction.
Straight up, tell us about the rules that you've broken.
Oh, not as many as I would have liked to, but consistently tried through my life. One is to be a female director in Bollywood. When I started out, there were maybe 3. Now there might be maybe 50, which is not 50%. There needs to be 50%. Then we can say that, okay, fine, now I'm satisfied. So that's one of the early rules, as well as the subject of my films. I'm an abiding lover of the female genre. I love it. It's my passion, it's my calling. And that's another rule, especially when I started out, which by the way is 25 years ago, was my first film. And I was working 5 years before that. So that's when I started out. Female protagonist films were really not encouraged at all, not even liked. In fact, they used to say, producers used to say, औरतों की pictures नहीं चलती. So, which I was like, how do you know? How do you know? Even if all of them, which is a very small percentage of movies made every year, do not succeed, even then you can't say that nahi chalti, because you have to have enough to have some kind of assessment, even to have a kind of a, in your ledger book there have to be a certain number of female films.
No denominator.
Yeah. So that I've consistently done, despite the fact that it's been discouraged. It's been also, when it hasn't actually worked, it's been, I've gone through like really sort of depressed times and felt very bad about it.
That's so, it's just sort of so, I mean, it's the irony, right? That you are wanting to tell stories of half the population because they deserve half the screen time.
Yes.
But that itself is what is a rule-breaking moment, and to go back in time and see that the time that you were doing these films about 2 decades ago around women, they were like, why do women's stories need to be told?
Yeah. And I had to have a male hero, otherwise I wouldn't get funding. So my first film, I had to, even though the role of Sanjay Dutt was much smaller than Kajol's, but I had to have Sanjay Dutt. Otherwise the movie wouldn't get funded. So now at least that small, it's a small bridge that has been crossed where you don't have to have a male hero. But even then the budgets are much smaller. So actually, you know, when people say, it actually kind of makes me unhappy to hear, is there now a trend? There's no trend. It's been really slow progress. So we should have come much further than we have.
Yeah. And it's funny that you use the word trend. How can women be a trend? How can women's stories and experiences be a trend? I mean, wedding.com is for example, right? This is not a trend that women suffer in marriages. It's not a trend that they don't get money even if it's theirs. It's not a trend that you know, their partners may come home and indulge in domestic abuse and they have to stay quiet. So when you tell these stories, do you feel that you're breaking a rule, or do you feel ashamed that you are?
Oh, I'm never shameful about breaking rules, because I think that all our troubles have been because we take to be the gospel truth what actually isn't true at all, you know, because we're all just pretending and hiding and saying, oh, our country is doing so well, our country is so, you know, got such strong women. Women are strong. I mean, I feel the women are of course inherently strong, but the glass ceiling wasn't created by women. So why is the entire onus of getting rid of it on the shoulders of women, you know? So everybody needs to, you know, men need to play a bigger part actually. If it's not an equal world, it's not wise for business, it's not wise for sort of, you know, just overall emotional, mental health. It's not good for anything when equality isn't there. So how does it help?
So how would you respond to men who says that it's not my job to bring this equality because I did not lead the situation here?
By being a part of this world. You living in this world, aren't you? Is what I would ask that man. By that token, you must mindfully your mind and part of your substantial amount of your time to it.
Yeah. You know, we let a lot pass by saying, oh, I didn't know. Ignorance is no longer an option.
No, not at all. And not knowing, since when is not knowing a defense? Meaning, even if you didn't know, why is that okay? You should have taken the trouble to find out. You know, so not knowing is not okay. You can at best say that I'm so sorry I didn't know. Let me make up for it. You know, let me do something now that I know. You know, it can't be used as an excuse, not knowing.
So what was your experience talking to these women in various walks of life? I don't know, I want to make this about just the movie around matrimony. But in the course of the last couple of decades, what kind of things have women really stood up for or failed at in your journey of telling their stories?
You know, in terms of telling stories, you do learn a lot along the way. You make mistakes and then you fix those mistakes because I find that there's some stuff that now if I look back, I would have done it maybe a little differently, which is fine. It's not a crime to make mistakes, but I think that my characters sometimes would need the help of men, which is okay as long as it's appreciated and understood that that we all live in a world where we all need each other's help. That's only that situation has come out of the out of society where we can't do this alone, you know. So therefore look at society clearly and say that this is what women have been made to go through. I mean, I have absolutely no hesitation in saying that women have been in darkness for centuries. And
what kind of darkness? What do you mean?
Suppression, even in writing, in storytelling, you know, not being encouraged to express, not being allowed to express some time back.
In
writers, and the law doesn't consider you equal. If the law doesn't consider you equal, if your agencies like your authorities, the police, your policing, your police, your government, you know, everything that actually makes the machinery move, if they don't consider you equal, or if they don't consider you important enough, which is not considering somebody equal, that is a darkness. That is, and you hide the fact that you feel weak. Then you pretend you're strong, and because you're not. It's not okay for women to say they're weak or their mental health is suffering. You know, mental health is like, deal with it.
Yeah.
This is your problem.
When were you feeling weak, and why would you have pretended to be strong?
Well, when in the film industry, if your work doesn't succeed, is when you have to pretend to be strong, that you can take it on the chin. And you know, even if you cry about it and feel sad about it, feel crushed by it, how is that not taking it on the chin? You know, why is it that you expect to smile through all your anxiety, your anguish, the fact that what you wanted to say didn't really communicate strongly enough to people that you wanted it to mean something to. Those have been some of the times, and then I mean, I haven't otherwise. Maybe you know, honestly, in relationships as well, in friendships, you might give the feeling that, you know, you don't need to be taken care of. Whereas I feel that, you know, Tennessee Williams, this great American playwright, said a wonderful thing, that the characters that he's always loved and written about are the desperate ones, the ones that were desperate for love. And he says that those, according to him, were the strong ones because they wanted something badly and they said they wanted it. So the idea, I think the lens through which we look at strength is faulty, you know. It's not weak to cry, to want something, to say that I wish I had this, to say I'm flawed. But we all must pretend that we are all doing well.
So you've done that too, like many women.
Sure.
Talk to us a little bit about the women who you met through wedding.com, because they seem to be epitomizing a lot of that desperation that you're reflecting on. You know, what were those women desperate about?
So, they sought love, and I think, like many of us, we'd love to share our lives with someone, the journey of our life, whether it's marriage or whether it's even just friends, partners. We'd love to have somebody to make us feel seen.
Yeah.
And in this quest, these women, some of the women met people who said the things that were music to their ears. They felt really special, which they hadn't felt through their lives. And
give us examples. Kya hua?
For example, one who had a really abusive marriage. Her daughter wanted her to find somebody, have a second innings, so to speak, and this guy called Mark Bruce messaged her on Instagram and said that, you know, that I love your smile and I think you're a wonderful woman. You are a wonderful, independent, strong woman. The very thing that she is proud of, but maybe she had to pay a price for it, you know. So she says, oh, this guy kind of, you know, likes, he's a feminist, he likes an independent woman. And then he'd say that, you know, you're beautiful. She had always been, because she was by her ex-husband made fun of for her dark skin, and for she was fat shamed, and here is a man who comes and says that you're beautiful. So how is that not supposed to make her feel special and nice and wonderful? And why will she not? Why will the first thought that comes into her mind, why should that be, is he lying? Is he a fraud? You know?
Yeah.
Why should it not be that, wow, there's a guy who likes me and I find that maybe I'm falling for him too, you know? Till of course she discovers that it's a fraud, and the other woman whose own daughter made her matrimonial profile, because the daughter said that you must find somebody before you find somebody for me, you know, which is such a lovely thing. And of course she met this guy who she says was from the neighboring village back home. And so she said that I loved that he would we would talk about that we a family that lives just within kilometers of each other. So she says that I never imagined that somebody from my own hometown or close by would cheat me, you know.
Yeah.
Again, it's such a sad indictment of society where you have to just be suspicious. I mean, the definition of smartness is now that, you know, don't be fooled by this. Be smart. How are you smart? Oh, suspect everybody. Suspect love. Suspect anybody's intentions of loving you, you know. Whereas actually it should be that, I feel the question should not be how could you be so foolish. It should be how could the criminal do this to you.
Yeah.
You know? So there's a lot of shame attached.
But you know what I find in this story is how some men have figured what women have found absent in their lives.
Yes.
And now they're taking that and turning into a tool.
Yes.
And going after them. I mean, look at the irony of this and what women really want in their lives.
Yes.
And for somebody to realize that these are the gaps,
yes,
I'm going to catch them vulnerable.
Yes, yes. That's what the perpetrator does. The modus operandi of a perpetrator is to say, oh, I don't believe in dowry. I think by all means you had a bad marriage. Let's look forward to a wonderful relationship where, you know, I respect you. It won't be the same again.
Yeah.
So these are the very things they put their finger on.
Yeah. Do you get affected by the fact that even now, 2024, 2.5 decades after you started work, we're still looking at these sort of films and plots and docuseries and documents as not mainstream?
Yes. I think the day is still quite far before the time when, you know, women's stories will be considered mainstream. I've now become used to that and I almost like it. I don't want to be mainstream. And I think that you know, when it is an equal world, when we have as many female directors as male directors, when we have as many female stories told as stories about men, I think even then there will be the niche to strive for, which will still not be mainstream. And I think that's where real progress is. That's why you're talking about the stuff that isn't spoken about, and those are the stories, to me personally, that are the interesting ones.
Yeah, you know, in that lens, I feel quite all right being called a female achiever.
Yes.
Do you feel embarrassed being called a female director?
Not at all. I absolutely insist on it. because like I said, when it's an equal world, remove a female from that. Then call me, yes.
When it is.
Yes.
When it is an equal
far
world.
From that day.
You're far from that.
Yes.
Right.
So in that situation, it's important to say female director, female writer, actress. So of course, actress is called an actress. There is just maybe a handful of directors of photography who are women, you know, sound
what
designers.
does it do to you when women fight the opposite battle? I'm just curious. Because in your industry, they do this. Don't
Yes.
call me an actress, call me an actor.
Yes.
Don't call me a female actor or the best female. There should be no award called the best female actress.
Yes.
It should just be an actor. I just want to know your thoughts. It's a tough one, but I'd like to know your thoughts.
No, my thoughts are actually very clear and simple about this. I don't agree at all. When I remember somebody said, talk to me just like a director, don't say female director. And to me, that was actually pushing the movement, if we'd like to call it a movement, behind. Because I do think that it is important to consider this a special thing. It's not easy for a woman to come into the film industry and just say that I want to be a director, I want to be a writer. At the time I started out, it was even more difficult. It's not much easier right now, you know. Amazon did a study on this where they wanted to see how many women are there in the industry, and it was like 10%, 15%, extremely dismal numbers.
Yeah. And so is the percentage of the amount of screen time they get or speaking time they get.
Yes.
Yeah. They do get a lot of silent time, to say. It's the truth. Right. You know, I often say this, that it's easy for us to discuss the rules we broke. It's very hard to discuss the ones we couldn't break and would have liked to break. I'd like Tanuja's thoughts on that.
Well, some I won't tell you about.
No, this show you have to tell everything. This is the place where they've come to talk to or listen to an interview which they don't get on the reels otherwise. Yeah. I'm not going to ask you for the list of your favorite films. No, that's not on this show.
Yeah, so many rules that actually I haven't been able to break, and I always, you know, make my mind to do it, and I create this resolve within me that this is what I'm going to say. I'm going to walk away from this place which doesn't appreciate what I'm trying to do, and I find that then I have to face the question that would I rather be helming a project or not, and I've chosen to always stick with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to fight the fight.
I want to make the project. I don't want to be feeling that I stuck by my guns and I didn't have a project to make. Although that is a position I would have loved much more, because I think those are the really crazy people who make changes, who make real changes, and I really appreciate that. But I
thought you would say having a project is having a voice and moving away from it as being lazy.
So it's complicated, because moving away from it is that I won't compromise. No matter what you offer me, I will not compromise. There's something to be said for that as well. So I'll try to, you know, I'll fight some of the battles, try to get something my way. Some things where I feel that, okay, it's not completely blunting my voice, I'll agree. But honestly, if you ask me honestly, I found that the things that I agreed to do, even on screen obviously, didn't really help the project. So I came back realizing that I should have stuck to what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
So I guess the resolve grows with each with each project that you do, and you make more room for yourself. I do involve women more and more in my crew, as you know, heads of departments as much as I can. Amazon has a policy of 30%. They try to have 30% women, female presence in their projects. We are 35%. Which is of course still not 50%.
Yeah.
But so I try to
but
do
it's
that.
closer to 50%.
Yes.
Than 30 would be. You know, as a single woman, how often are you singled out and spotlighted for being like this piece of art which shouldn't exist in a single form?
So this is one of the things that has bothered me least. The fact that the world thinks or whatever, that I haven't settled down. I'm very happy to be unsettled. I was telling you, which I find funny, that you know, I stumbled upon my mother speaking on the phone in this really sort of bizarre awaz that Tanuja ne shaadi nahi ki. And I was just like, Mom, what is that tone? What is that tone of defeat? I certainly don't feel sorry that I haven't married. So I've never been apologetic because of that, which actually this is what I should learn from for myself. That say something that I tried to do in a film doesn't really work. Maybe I tried, maybe it was risky, it's a risk I took and it didn't work. The lesson to learn from that is not to not do it again. You know, the lesson to learn from that, how do I do it better? What is the mistake I made that I can improve on? As opposed to, shit man, that thing that I wanted to do, which I was so vocal about, which people even warned me wouldn't work, it didn't work, therefore now that's a defeat and I must think differently. Because I don't feel in the least self-conscious that I'm not married or feel defeated by that, I think that conveys, that sends out a good vibe. It sends out a vibe of that while I'm okay by all means if you want to be married, I also find seeking love, seeking togetherness is something beautiful. I'm not against that at all.
Yeah.
I've just never married. Simple.
Yeah. No, I'm not making any judgments at all. I'm just asking you, in just through your director lens and your woman lens, or any lens, right? Just like a public person lens, is marriage up for a rethink as an institution?
Marriage surely is up for a rethink, I think, because
Now you're sounding like your mom. Defeated.
Because the tales of woe that come from my married brethren and sisters is just, and actually sadly the ones that have continued to stay in marriages despite the marriage being awful and terrible and just sorrowful, is such a sad thing, which is why I always I always think it's very important for women to be financially independent so that they can walk away from a marriage that's not working, you know. Very often they can't. So I don't judge them for that at all. I mean, the thing that as I've grown older, I've understood that as a young person, you're very full of judgments for other people, right? You're like, oh, just don't do that, give him a slap, walk away. You know, so easy for people to just say that to women who are in difficult situations in their life. That I've truly understood. And I think that large part of my empathy comes from that, you know, to be able to understand why someone couldn't do what they really long to do.
Super. Great having you with us.
Thank you. Thank you.